of my sisters occupied the suite. I am afraid some of her things are here. She hasn't sent for them as yet. She occupied this room, I think. When I came back a few days ago she took another place, and all her things haven't been removed." "I see," remarked Hedge casually. "I don't suppose there's any chance of her returning here unexpectedly if I should happen to take her apartments?" "Not the slightest. She knows I'm back, and thinks I'm to remain. She was to send for these things." Hedge gazed about the room ostentatiously. Across a trunk lay a Turkish bathrobe with a scarlet stripe in it. He was anxious to get hold of it, to examine it closely, but he didn't dare to then. Together they returned to the front room. "I rather like the place," he said, after a pause, "but the price is—" "Just a moment," Gabelle interrupted. "Jean, before you finish packing that suitcase, be sure to put my bathrobe in it. It's in the far room." Then one question was settled for Hedge. After a moment the valet returned with the bathrobe, which had been in the far room. It was Gabelle's bathrobe. As Jean passed the reporter, an end of the rope caught on a corner of the trunk and, stopping, the reporter unfastened it. A tiny strand of thread clung to the metal. Hedge detached it and stood idly twirling it in his fingers. "As I was saying," he resumed, "I rather like the place, but the price is too much. Suppose you leave it in the hands of the manager of the house." "I had intended doing that," the Southerner interrupted. "Well, I'll see him about it later," Hedge added. With a cordial albeit preoccupied handshake, Gabelle ushered him out. Hedge went down the elevator with a feeling of elation, a feeling that he had accomplished something. The manager was waiting to get into the lift. "Do you happen to remember the name of the young lady who occupied Mr. Gabelle's suite while he was away?" he asked. "Miss Austen," said the manager. "But she's not young. She was about 45 years old, I should judge." "Did Mr. Gabelle have his servant Jean with him?" "Oh, no," said the manager. The valet gave up the suite to Miss Austen entirely, and until Mr. Gabelle returned occupied a room in the quarters we have for our own employees." "Was Miss Austen ailing in any way?" asked Hedge. "I saw a large number of medicine bottles upstairs." "I don't know what was the matter with her," replied the manager with a little puzzled frown. "She certainly was not a woman of sound mental balance, that is, she was eccentric, and all that. I think rather it was an act of charity for Mr. Gabelle to let her have the suite in his absence. Certainly we didn't want her." Hedge passed out and burst in eagerly upon the thinking machine in his laboratory. "Here," he said, and triumphantly he extended the tiny scarlet strand which he had received from the thinking machine, and the other of the identical color which came from Gabelle's bathrobe. "Is that the same?" The thinking machine placed them under the microscope, examined them immediately. Later he submitted them to a chemical test. "It is the same," he said finally. "Then the mystery is solved," said Hedge conclusively. End of Mystery of the Scarlet Thread, by Jacques Futrelle, Part 1.